The hidden psychological reasons. They fell for someone else, not you. You once loved someone with everything you had. You were patient, kind, ready to walk with her through every storm. You believed that if you were sincere enough, she would understand, but then she chose someone else, someone who wasn't necessarily better, not necessarily richer. And you wonder, why? What does he have that I don't? Is it his looks, his money, his recklessness? Maybe. But maybe it's not because he's better than you. It's because he awakened a part of her, a subconscious part, a wounded part, a part even she doesn't fully understand. And you, the kind, sincere man, were left behind. But today, we're going to go deeper, to understand why the ones who love the most often don't get chosen, and why it was never because you weren't enough. There's a kind of pain that's very common among men over 50. It's not physical pain. It's a quiet pain, unseen, unnamed. It's when you've loved someone with everything you had. You gave her your time, your heart, even the last pieces of hope you barely had left, and you thought, if I'm kind, if I'm sincere, then she'll stay. But in the end, she still left, and the hardest part isn't that she left. It's that she chose someone else, someone who didn't love her the way you did. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I'm not attractive enough? Maybe I was too good, too predictable, too boring. Maybe I shouldn't have loved so deeply. But you know what? It's not that you were wrong. It's just that you didn't look deep enough. The truth is, in love, people don't always choose what's right. They don't always choose kindness, not because they're cruel, but because they're more familiar with pain than with safety. Some people only recognize love when it hurts, and you, the one who brought peace, became a stranger in the very dream they thought they wanted. You know, when a woman chooses someone else, it's not always a logical decision. Sometimes the one she chooses isn't the better man, but the one who matches a certain part of her, a part she herself can't even name. From a psychological perspective, especially in modern psychoanalysis, there are 4 layers of reasons why someone might be drawn to another person. Surface level. Physical appearance and initial attraction. When a woman feels drawn to someone upon first meeting, her initial reaction usually doesn't come from logic. It comes from emotion, and emotions often stem from surface-level cues. A bright smile, expressive eyes, a deep, calming voice, a confident walk, or even a familiar scent from her past. Psychology calls this the halo effect. It's when a single striking trait, usually appearance or presence, makes us assume that the whole person must be equally exceptional. That man might not understand her like you do. He may not care about the little things the way you do. But in that first moment, he knows how to show up at the exact emotional frequency she's been unconsciously craving. A well-timed smile, a deep gaze that feels like it sees through her, a joke that lands just right and makes her feel seen. And just like that, her heart leans toward him, even before she knows who he really is. Many good men lose in the very first round, not because they're lacking, but because they haven't learned how to make a strong impression from the start. That doesn't mean you're less valuable. It simply means you weren't the one who made her heart skip a beat first. And in a world where feelings speak louder than reason, that alone can change everything. Ego. The idealized image from youth. From a young age, each of us begins building a mental image of the person who will one day make our hearts skip a beat. It might come from a movie character, a hero, in a comic book, or maybe just the glance of a teacher, a neighbor, someone whose gaze once made her heart race a little faster. That image wasn't created by logic. It was shaped by memories, emotions, childhood, and by the emotional gaps left behind in the soul. Even as we grow older, go through relationships, live through heartbreak, that idealized image remains. It lingers like a beautiful ghost, never gone, just waiting to be awakened. And then, She meets someone who resembles that image, maybe not in full, but in a gesture, a way of walking, a tone of voice. She doesn't choose him for who he is in the present. She chooses him because a memory was triggered. In that moment, she isn't choosing the man standing in front of her. She's choosing a feeling she once had a long time ago, a time when she was innocent, longing, and believed love was something out of a fairy tale. You, wiser, more accomplished, more emotionally aware, suddenly feel too real. You are reality, not the dream, and sometimes people still choose to run toward the dream, even when they know it won't last. That doesn't make you any less valuable. It just means you don't match the memory imprinted on her ego. And sadly, a heart haunted by an old image often forgets that it's the present, not the past, that holds the power to heal. 3. The shadow, attraction to the unresolved. Carl Jung, the father of modern analytical psychology, called it the shadow self. It's the dark part within each of us, the place where repressed desires, hidden emotions, and all the parts of ourselves deemed unacceptable by society are pushed down and buried. On the outside, she may seem like a kind, gentle, polite woman. She knows how to say the right things, behave properly, love with reason. But somewhere deep, inside, there is still a part of her that's rebellious, a part that never got to fully live, a part that craves letting go of control, a part that longs to be raw, even if just for a moment. And then she meets a man who carries unpredictability, a little wild, a little reckless, a little impossible to read. And suddenly, that shadow side within her wakes up. You, with your maturity, safety, and stability. You're the ideal man to build a future with. But he, with his danger, spontaneity, and even chaos, he's the one who makes her feel alive. Because for some people, especially those raised in emotionally extreme environments, they only feel like they're truly in love when the situation feels thrilling, unstable, beyond their control. It may sound irrational, but there are people who only feel love when it comes with the fear of loss, when their heart races not from joy, but from anxiety, confusion, and emotional tension. And in that confusing game of contradiction, you be the one who brings peace, become the right man at the wrong time, because the shadow within her is still choosing someone who can stir up the chaos she hasn't yet made peace with. The subconscious, repeating the love pattern. This is the deepest layer, the place reason can't reach. We call it the subconscious, and it's surprising to realize that most choices in love don't come from logic, but from what's been deeply imprinted in our past. Some people grew up in homes filled with tension, parents arguing, dinner tables cold with silence, an absence of real, nurturing love. For them, love doesn't equal gentleness. It equals pain, struggle, control, and anxiety. And so, as they grow older, their heart subconsciously seeks out those same familiar feelings, not because they want to, but because their subconscious has learned to see that pain as a kind of emotional safety. Then you come into their life, a mature, calm, grounded man. You don't make them feel the same rush, the drama, the chase they once associated with being in love. You're too steady, too clear, too kind. And ironically, it's that very kindness that confuses them. They don't know how to handle a man who doesn't make them cry. They feel out of control because there's nothing to chase, nothing to guess, nothing to fear. To you, safety is something to be cherished. But to them, to someone who's never known healthy love, safety feels boring. And so, they walk away, not because you're unworthy, but because the love you offer feels too unfamiliar to the wounds they've never healed. Here is the faithful American English translation of your 3 illustrative stories, preserving tone, meaning, and structure exactly as written, with culturally appropriate name changes. 3 illustrative stories. Michael, The kind man who was left behind, Michael was the ideal husband. He provided for his family, cared for his wife and kids, never once complained. But then, his wife went back to her ex, a man who had once betrayed her. Michael was shocked. He didn't understand. What did I do wrong? The truth, he did nothing wrong. It's just that for her, the pain from that old relationship had become something familiar. And Michael, the symbol of kindness and stability, made her feel out of place. Daniel, the one rejected for being too stable. Daniel fell in love with a woman nearly 20 years younger than him. She was young, beautiful, intelligent, but she kept getting drawn to the kind of bad boys who always ended up hurting her. Daniel was patient. He stayed by her side, protected her, loved her without demanding anything. And one day, she walked away and said, "You're too good. I don't deserve you." But deep down, what she really felt was fear. Daniel was too kind, too consistent, and for someone used to chaos, a peaceful kind of love felt unbelievable. James, the man. Friend-zoned for being too perfect, James was the kind of man most women dream of. Successful, emotionally, mature, deeply loving. He fell for a divorced woman. They had everything in common, every box checked, but it never turned into something more. Why? Because she still believed that love had to hurt, that love was supposed to be dramatic, full of ups and downs. James was simply too kind, and so he became the best friend, not the man she could fall in love with. The truth is, it's not that you weren't good enough. It's not that you didn't love deeply enough. It's that she wasn't mature enough to receive the kind of love you offered. You don't need to change yourself. You don't need to force yourself to become more attractive, more mysterious, less available, just to be chosen. Because if you have to become someone else, then it's no longer real love. It's just a performance built on pain. The one who's right for you is someone courageous enough to stay for your kindness, someone peaceful enough to accept a love that isn't filled with chaos and games. Hold on to that strength, because love, if it's only about emotion, is fragile. But love built on understanding yourself and understanding others, that kind of love is lasting and beautiful. Carl Jung once said, "Until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate." And today, maybe you've realized something. Many fated love stories are really just old wounds that were never healed. Have you ever been the one who wasn't chosen? Even though you gave your love with patience, sincerity, and loyalty. In the end, you still weren't the one who stayed. If you've ever gone through that, I invite you to share your story in the comments, not to blame fate, not to resent the one who left, but so that others, those who are walking through the same pain you once knew, can see that they're not alone, can realize their heartbreak has been felt by someone else, someone like you. And who knows, maybe writing it down will lighten your own heart. Because sometimes, when we dare to share our wounds, they stop being cuts and become light for someone else to find their way. Your story, your real, raw truth, might just be the anchor. For someone feeling lost in a love that didn't choose them, leave a few lines. Someone out there might need to read exactly what you have to say. Sometimes people don't choose you. Not because you weren't good enough, not because you didn't love enough, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because they're still searching for something familiar in their own pain. They choose the person who brings them tension, hurt, uncertainty, because deep down their subconscious has learned to believe that love always comes with tears. And when you show up with sincerity, with peace, with clarity, you end up making them feel confused, because for some people, safety isn't what they're looking for. They've never learned how to receive a kind of love that doesn't hurt. But you don't need to shout to be loved. You don't need to chase or lose yourself just to be kept. True love doesn't come from suffering or blind sacrifice. It comes from two people who understand themselves, who are healed enough, who are brave enough to walk forward together without chasing, without pretending. So stay true to who you are. Hold on to the calm, the strength, and the worth that time has carved into you. And one day, when someone mature enough finally arrives, you'll no longer have to ask yourself, why did she choose someone else and not me? Because that person will choose you, clearly, peacefully, and without hesitation.